Welcome to Jim Steak. Yet another week. Happy week. Hope everyone's doing well. We are in June 2024. I hope this lasts forever and ever. This is an important topic today. We are in a whirlwind getting ready for the summer and doing all kinds of just fun and exciting things. And this week, I would like to talk to you about relevance and the desperate need for relevance that we are being inundated with everywhere. And it's something I think that needs to be addressed, right? You've heard me talk about relevance in the past, especially as we're talking about adapting to change and the big AI changes that are coming and all of this fun stuff, and how the challenge isn't actually that things are changing so quickly. The challenge is we have a fear that we're no longer going to be relevant, especially in the workplace. That's kind of one big debate. So, if you realize that this is a question of relevance, suddenly becomes a very different challenge that you could focus on in terms of becoming relevant, remaining relevant. What are the actions and behaviors you could take in order to remain relevant within that work context? But I want to take a step back from the work context, because when I had initially thought about this topic for a podcast and I was talking to my people about it, it was really me venting about the garbage that is social media. The PR team I use, and I think I say this a lot on the podcast, they're desperate. They're like, just put stuff out on social media. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. And then I, get in them. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And then I go to sit down and do it. I'm like, this is garbage. All of it's garbage. All of it is just a waste of time. This is all dumb. Who actually watches this shit? Like all of that kind of stuff. And then I end up not putting anything on social media. And the reason, there are a lot of reasons for it. One is like, who cares? And I have to get my head past that in terms of whatever. One day I might do some more on social media. But I think the data I was using as I was talking about this is we are being inundated with this social media mess of what I call just this desperate grasp for relevance. And when I think about people being so desperate for relevance, we think about it in the work context, but we think about it also in life context, where things are looking so far gone and so changing so quickly, and how do we adapt and how do we do these types of things. So many people are just trying to market themselves or try to find some algorithmic relevance in terms of getting the likes and the promotions, and it's such a negative. It's painful to watch, right? If you were to sit on your TikToks, your Instagrams, your Facebooks, whatever kind of thing is, and just put this lens of insecurity over these videos, it's you become much more cynical about it. You feel much more sad for the people that do it, and there are contra views to this. In a couple weeks, I did a great conversation with Sam Kelly. We're going to release that. We were in the studio last week, so we're just editing that. That'll come out. She's pro social media in terms of building a community and everything. So we have a nice little tete-a-tete conversation. So look forward to that. But when I think about how I hate posting to social, how it just becomes another distraction, how so much so that I consider not having a business. I even said to the people saying, look, if this is what's required of me to have my business, maybe I don't want to be in business. That's how much I hate it. Like, that's how much I hate the whole idea of it. And most people, when they talk about social media, they talk about the consumption side of it. It drives negative behaviors. It does all of these things. There's this fear of missing out. There's this jealousy that comes up because we've got this Instagram reality that's going on, and these stupid influencers taking pictures of, them walking through a beach or some shit. And there is negative consumption behavior for social media. But I want to talk about the other side of it. All this stuff, this desperate need for likes, and look how cute my kid is, and look at what I'm doing here. And when you put this lens of insecurity over the content creation of it, you realize that so many people are missing out on what's completely around them. We're missing out on the things that we are actually able to experience, the meaning of life. What are we experiencing? What are we building with all this? And I will die on this hill 12 days a week that what most people are missing is in-person social interaction. And I'm going to talk about it more today, but it's this desperate need driving people to build these stupid videos but it's also it hits it in other ways too. And so I don't want to just bash social media, which I love to do, but that's not what I'm here for. What I want to talk about is, as you're creating this stuff and as you're doing things, I do think creating something is great, right? We are creative beings. We want to be creative. We want to do something interesting, but creative doesn't have to be. We should be creating for the purposes of creating. Right? I don't do this podcast because I've got people sponsoring me. I've never done any of that. I've never tried any of that. I've never done any of those things. I do the podcast because I used to work in radio, and I just love doing the podcast. I love hearing my own voice. I love doing these types of things. But also, it helps me sit down and buckle down and articulate my thoughts on things that are meaningful to me. And I think that's why I really like doing the podcast, and that's why I create the podcast. That's why I write the book. It's a cathartic exercise. It's all of these types of things. But when we think about this psychological and social phenomenon of social media, of relevance, when we start creating things for the purpose of algorithmic likes, when we start creating things for what other people are going to like, when we start creating things of, will I be accepted? Will I fit in? Because I want these likes and I use this as a judgment level for what I'm doing, we're going down the completely wrong path. We have, my business is changing behavior. I work with organizations to get their people to change behavior, or to at least build a foundation so that they can make the right behavioral decisions when the moment matters. That's ultimately what it's about. When we're adapting to change, we are making split-second decisions in a moment on saying, this is relevant, this is not, and how do I consume, and what do I do, what are the questions I ask, and we process that all very, very quickly. And when I look at social media, when I look at some of these behaviors, the stupid stuff that I see, and this is pure judgmental on my end, I think it's stupid, but some people like it, that's fine. I see that this behavior is an outlet from a decision that we need to make. And I disagree with the idea that the behavior on social media and looking for algorithmic likes and spending your time on that without really engaging in a meaningful way with people in person, we're not going to get back what it is that we're hoping to get. We're missing out on the things that are right in front of us. I remember 5 years ago, give or take, went to a soccer game here in the States. My brother and I, we bought season tickets to a soccer team. We loved it. We used to go all the time. And they had all these things out there for families outside the stadium, and these guys are kicking soccer balls around and doing tricks. And 3 people in the front row, right in front of it, turned their back to the performers and put a camera up to videotape, that just to show people that they were there. And I was looking at it, I'm like, you're never going to watch that video again. This is something awesome to see right in front of you. And you're literally turning your back to it. And it was such this metaphorical moment where I'm just saying we are turning our back on the very things that make us human. We're turning our back on the very things that bring us value. We're turning our backs on the exercises that will make us relevant. And when we think about relevant, right? What do we want when we're talking about being relevant, right? We want to feel significant. We want to feel useful. We want to feel valued. We want to be acknowledged within our communities. We want to be acknowledged in society at large. We want to talk about all of these things. And when we think about acknowledgement, when we think about people recognizing our ability and our capabilities, yet they don't see it in person, you're not going to get the recognition that you desire. And if you're desperately trying to find it with people who don't live near you on the social media universe, some people are funny, some people are cute, whatever, they're doing whatever their thing is. But this is a real hit to self-worth and identity and self-esteem. And when we have this sense of relevance, because that's what we're really looking for. We're looking for relevance when everything's changing. When the community's changing, workplace is changing, kids are learning faster than we are. We don't know what's going on in the neighborhood around us, and how do we adapt, and what are my decisions. You've heard me previously on this podcast talk about what is your belief system so that you have an anchor. What is your community so that you have a support system? What are these different, what are the decisions you're making so that you can evolve and adapt with change? And one of those big components is not just what you believe, but how it's relevant to other people. And when you have a true belief system that can interact with other people, and they can interact back with you, where there is no judgment, and you recognize that they can have a different belief system and you can have a different belief system. And then all of a sudden you realize that you both have relevant perspectives on co-creating some kind of solution as you adapt to change. All of a sudden your relevance meter goes through the roof. Your self-esteem goes through the roof. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for significance and value for ourselves and feeling that. And we cannot get that through a computer screen or through a phone or through any of these types of things. We have to build this sense of belonging. We are inherently social creatures, and we want to belong and we want to fit. And this is not easy for everybody to do, especially as you get older. Especially as you've raised your kids, you've got an empty nest, you're sitting there now and say, all right, where is everybody, right? I'm looking at retirement, I'm looking at all this thing, and I have no community. We're looking at kids today growing up where they've got these accounts and they're trying to, build a presence and they're trying to make a career out of it and everything. That's one kind of different side of it, but it's all incredibly superficial. And in actuality, it drives more stress and anxiety. How many people are trying to build some kind of community, yet when they get in front of people, they have the stress and anxiety of, oh, do they know, this? And I've got 100,000 followers on TikTok. Do they know that? And how am I so desperate for this? You see these influencers come out. I do these panels and talking engagements, speaking engagements, and I do all of these things. And so many of these people will sit there. Their first statement is, well, I have, 250,000 followers, or I have the most watched Facebook Live thing that existed. And look at that's not relevant. Who gives a shit? Right? What are you talking about today that's going to be relevant to people as they evolve in the moment? How are we getting past this superficial nonsense and build some sense of belonging and some sense of value and some sense of motivation to take steps to build in-person social interactions, in-person community? How do you feel belonged? And this sense of belonging, and when you have that, when you find your people, all of a sudden your stress, your anxiety actually goes down. I remember how much I used to hate networking. I used to hate it. I used to, and I don't particularly enjoy it now. But you go to these networking events and you're like, all right, where's the bar? Get your drink. And then you go around like, who do I go? And, I had to amp myself up and do this in different types of ways. And, I'll have 3 conversations and then I can get the hell out or whatever. Or I'll do one circle. And if I don't talk to anybody, I can get the hell out. There's this kind of anxiety that we put upon ourselves in terms of meeting people. But what I had 2 key moments when I was meeting new people and looking to network, because I had a business, you got to network. 2 key moments that helped me as I did it. One, I would go into an event and I would say, all right, what can I do to purely enjoy the next 60 minutes of my life that I am about to be with these people? That was one. And suddenly then you go up and say, all right, you know what, I'm going to enjoy it by not talking about myself, because I hate talking about myself. So I would go up and I would ask questions on people like, oh, tell me about you. What do you do for fun? First time here, whatever. It became a lot easier to talk to people when I knew that I was going through the intention of having fun in that moment. So that was one. 2, the other one was when I quit drinking, I went to a networking event. And I came home and told my wife right after, I said, this was the best networking event I ever went to. I realized how much drinking was impacting my ability to have a real meaningful social interaction with other people. I was suddenly more interested in them. I was more comfortable with myself. I had this more controlled aspect of interacting with people and talking more about myself. And I didn't have to hide behind a drink and carry things around. And now if you see me at a networking event, typically there's nothing in my hand. I just engage in a much more meaningful way. And so when we're building up stress and anxiety and finding relevance, that's ultimately what we're looking for. We want to be relevant, and we go beyond social media, beyond the workplace, beyond any of this. If you were to sit and think about, how am I relevant today and to whom am I relevant today? And who is relevant to me? It goes both ways. It's this relationship kind of aspect. It's an intrinsic versus extrinsic value that we have to tap into that can foster a more sustainable sense of self-worth. Self-worth. Cat Williams had a good joke about it, where he talks about people dating or something. Said he was bad for my self-worth or my self-image, and he goes, "How can I be bad for your self-image? It's your self-image." He used bad language and stuff that I won't repeat on the podcast, but that's okay. It was a hilarious skit, but. It's valid. It's so valid. When we think about Our self-image, it's what we think about ourselves and how do we support that. When we think about algorithmic relevance online, it's an extrinsic catapult or an extrinsic measurement or metric that has no value in terms of measuring your self-worth. It has no value in terms of your relevance. It has no value in any way, shape, or form. People will forget you. They scroll through in a 5-second moment. They might like it, they might not, and they go on and they forget about you the next day. When you have an in-person social interaction, you find your people, suddenly people will remember you. You are relevant. You are bringing value to the people around you. It is psychological. It is social. It is cultural. But ultimately, when we want to foster positive growth, positive achievement, lack of superficiality, we have to do this work on self-awareness. What are we interested in? We have to do this in terms of belief system. We have to do it in all of these different things. When we think about this, this is a lifestyle change. We're ultimately looking for changed behavior. And just like dieting, right? We diet short term, but it doesn't fix the challenge. You're still overweight because you diet for a short period and then you go back, you revert. And then you diet for a little bit and you go back, you revert. It's about ultimate lifestyle change. I was listening to a speaker once, this guy, Derek. He was talking about wellness and fitness. And his first line was, if you cannot commit to this for the rest of your life, don't bother starting, right? It's a pointless exercise. But this, I would argue, social interaction, social wellness, social health, relevance, is foundational to how you live your life. This is not, I mean, we talk about health issues from the food you consume. Your relevance, I will die on this hill. I'll say it again. Your usefulness, your social value is ultimately meaningful to how you live your life and how you get meaning from your life. And we're seeing this a little bit with a movement with like, I'm going no social summer, no social impact, whatever, in terms of online social media. But when we think about more is how life in general is like dating, right? And meeting new people is like dating. We think about meeting new people in terms of these different contexts. One is, I have to find a partner, or I have to find parents I like who could be friends with my kids, or I have to like. There's always I have to meet someone for the purpose of something else. How do we pause for a second and say, how do I meet people just for the joy of fellowship? How do I meet people just for the joy of being social and interacting with other people with no strings attached? No other, I can have a coffee with this person, have a nice time, I'll never see them again. Or maybe I will, who knows? Doesn't matter. I'm not dating this person, I'm not looking to do anything, but how am I going to just enjoy my 30 minutes, 1 hour with this person, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And life is like dating. Right? When you go on a first date, you leave and you're like, did I like it? Did I not? Do I want to go on a second date? And then your second date happens, if you did like it. They say, did I like it? Did I not? Do I want a third date? All the way through, I'm married, 11 years? 11 years. Something like that. But every day, ultimately, even though I'm married, is, all right, we've had 36,500 dates. Tomorrow's the next one. Do I want to do it? Tomorrow's the next one. Everything is ultimately a choice. But ultimately, you're dating yourself. Are you making the decisions today? Say, you know what? That was something I enjoyed. I would like to do it again. That was something I enjoyed. I would like to do it again. And you will be hard pressed to find someone scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or anything else, or spending an hour on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, who says, I enjoyed my time on that and I hope to do it again tomorrow. We're doing it to fill a gap that is so missed. It's a relevance gap. It's a social gap. That's ultimately what we're looking to do. I mean, we are ultimately, if we want to get into the meaning of life and some kind of crazy shit there, we're flying on a rock through space, right? Experience is the meaning of life, and it develops the self. Our social interaction, our relevance develops the self. It develops our self-worth, right? It builds self-reliance when we're going toe-to-toe with the bullshit quote we get from the roofer or the plumber. It builds self-reliance when we're standing up for the person who cut in front of us in line. But we're also building a community of people. We're building new perspectives. We're building this interesting aspect of other people. And when we think about hell is other people, I love that quote. The meaning of that is our relevance in relation to other people, our insecurity in relation to other people. And that's what makes it hell. And how do we flip this to say, I am relevant to myself and other people can bring more relevance to me? And that's what we want to do. So that's it. I think I said all I want to say. I don't know. That's it. I mean, we have, it's a sense of control. I'll leave with this one quote. I read it in The Psychology of Money. This guy, Angus Campbell, from back in 1910. And it was quoted in the book. Having a strong sense of controlling one's life is a more dependable predictor of positive feelings of well-being than any of the objective conditions of life we have considered. Any objective stat that you want to take a look at, number of likes, number of this, number of that, is irrelevant. We want to control our life. We want a feeling of controlling. We want a feeling of self-worth. We want a feeling of relevance. We want a feeling of self-reliance. And that gives us relevance as we evolve change. And we get that from in-person social engagement. That's it. Get out, make a friend, meet someone. If you need help making a friend, reach out to me. I'll introduce you to someone. It's great. Have a cup of coffee. It's a wonderful time. Have a wonderful week. Good luck, everybody. Be social, have fun, be relevant. And I look forward to talking to everybody soon. Have a great week.